Today we will be talking about the American Revolution. There are many reasons why the colonists settled here, but one of the main reasons is because of religion. There were a lot of Puritans, Quakers, and Protestants who wanted to practice their religion, so they came to the free land. The 13 colonies were divided into 3 sections: New England, Middle Section, and Southern States. New England included New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. The Middle Section, or also known as Red Basket, was New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. And the Southern States, of course, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Navigation Acts of 1651 was one of the main navigation acts passed by Parliament. This document stated that Parliament was to regulate colonial trade and enable them to collect taxes. French and Indian War was also known as the 7-Year War. The two sides were French and Britain, and they fought over the expansion of land, of course. Ironically, the Indians were not one of the primary opponents, but was an ally of one of the sides. Britain took home the win. King George III, my favorite person. A lot of you may not know that he was mentally ill. He was violently insane, died deaf, blind, and mad. But more importantly, he was in charge when the Revolutionary War happened. He was one of the longest ruling monarchy before Queen Victoria and was 23 years old when he took the crown. King George himself believes that he had the divine right to rule. Proclamation of 1763 was passed on October 7th. It issued right after the French and Indian War, saying that no one can go past the Appalachian Mountains and settle. This gave Parliament and King George an advantage and kept the colonists in check, and no one could make any arrangements with the Native Americans. All had to go through official authority. The Sugar Act angered the colonists and was passed by Parliament. This was taxed on sugar, certain wines, coffee, and, strangely, export of lumber. This was a modified version of the Sugar and Molasses Act, which was passed in 1733. And these taxes were claimed to cover all the damages of the French and Indian War. This is Act 2 of 3. This was taxes on paper documents, like, of course, letters, stamps, etc. And the colonists was not happy at all because they did not have a representative. And this all started the no taxation without representation. Sons of Liberty was a whole group of bad boys who stood up to the British government. They were not afraid to say what they believed was right for the colonies, and they're all originally from all 13 colonies. So notable sons were Samuel Adams, John Hancock, Patrick Henry, and Paul Revere. Boston Massacre wasn't really a massacre because only 5 people died. But it all started with snow, sticks, and stones. British soldiers were defending themselves and fired their rifles. 5 lives were lost, and they were all colonists. Last but not least, out of all 3 taxes, the Tea Act. Of course, the colonists loved their tea because they are originally from Britain. But King George didn't have to be a douche and add a tax to this. But this was placed on tea, of course, and this is the start of a rebellion.
The Boston Tea Party. The Tea Party occurred on December 16, 1773 on the Boston Harbor. The Sons of Liberty led the rebellious actions because of the taxes on tea. The colonists and the members of the Sons of Liberty disguised themselves as Indians to dump the tea over the Boston Harbor. This resulted in a very angry Parliament. Common Sense. Common Sense is a book written by Thomas Paine, which explains how he challenges the authority of British government and the royal monarchy. His ideas included a new government which was to be their own government. Enlightenment thinkers. There were many Enlightenment thinkers. Their ideas heavily influenced the Americans. 3 of them were J.J. Rousseau, John Locke, and Adam Smith. J.J. Rousseau wrote The Social Contract, which which presents the idea of a king keeping his citizens happy. John Locke believed in natural rights and freedom. Adam Smith influenced trade, and he's known as the father of trade. Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson is the author of the Declaration of Independence. This document stated that the colonists should be free from Parliament. There are 5 parts to the Declaration of Independence. This should be considered a declaration of war, which is a formal act by which one nation goes to war against another. Revolutionary War. The British had great advantages. They seemed unbeatable, and their geography and naval fleet were strong. Colonials had some advantages as well. They fought on land, and their geography was vastiness. George Washington led the Continental Army, and General William Howe led the British. Revolutionary War Part 2. Loyalists were American colonists who remained loyal to England, so the Americans in England fought for their state. This war led to the result of the colonials winning. The Treaty of Paris. The Treaty of Paris was signed and ended the Revolutionary War. Articles of Confederation. The Articles of Confederation established the functions of the national government of the U.S. after it declared independence from England, but then had to be replaced because the 13 states had no separation of powers whatsoever. The Constitution. The Constitution was ratified due to the Articles of Confederation being too weak. This document was so much better because it had too much power to the states. Election of Washington. George Washington was then elected in 1789 as president. He was chosen because he was the father of our country, and he was unanimously elected.